Jen, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to hit record and finally bring some of our conversations to the public. Not only because I have loved watching you coach, but you are doing some really, really cool things even before working together. And so let's just start with where you at? What are you coaching? Who are you? For everyone listening, give us the down low.
Sure. Well, I've been with the Blair softball program in Blair, Nebraska since 2009, I think. But I've been head coach for the last 7 years, maybe. I don't know. They've all blended together, but each of them so different and enjoyable. But yeah, I've been a part of the Blair program for a very long time. Um, yeah, I've been the head coach. We have three teams, JV, reserve, and varsity. And I get to have my hand in a little bit of every team, which is also really wonderful. I'm very lucky I have some awesome coaches, which we can always talk about later, that I get to work with. Uh, yeah, so I mean, we've had a couple great runs the last few years and seen a lot of success, and we have a really large youth group. So I'm excited that the program will keep growing and getting bigger with each year that passes.
Yeah. And one thing that was interesting for me. So for context, I used
Hmm.
to coach at a school in your conference. So we were
Yep.
head coaches against each other, which is hilarious because, we go back and we're like, give me all your secrets. What are you
Yeah.
doing? You know,
Yeah.
we're in the same conference. And one of the things that I've always admired is even from the outside, Blair has this rich history of even when I was a player at my
Mhm.
alma mater, Blair has this culture that is so ingrained that has never really faltered. Like it's there, it's palpable, you can feel it. And what I always assumed from the outside, and I've never admitted this to you, Blair has always been that intimidating team of like, you better get your scouting report ready. It's going to be a dogfight. Like, you have a really great, talented team. But now, working with you on the mental skills side as a coach, working in tandem with you, one of the things that I noticed about your culture is you guys just are so matter of fact when it comes to when really good things happen, you guys are even keel. When really bad things happen, like you just have this presence at the helm as the head coach of like, hey, I have your back no matter what. And it's almost it shocked me of how calm of a coach you are. And your girls, it's like they're sitting on pins and needles waiting to hear what you have to say. How have you built that?
You know, it's funny because I was a college athlete as well as softball, and I think I've always been pretty calm. I'm very competitive, but I try to like keep it locked in a little bit and not necessarily show like when I'm frustrated or angry, just because I think that gave me like a mental edge. If I didn't make an error, if I didn't get on base, like, okay, I'm just going to remain calm and confident and I'll just get it the next time. And that my opponent won't see that I might be struggling mentally. So I think the same thing goes when you're coaching too. So if you get down or your team gets down or they make mistakes or things start spiraling, like you have to maintain that calm confidence where they know that I am 100% confident in them. And it's about respect too, I think. There's never like an uneven balance of power within my coaching staff or even like my players. So they know like if they have a concern, they can come up and talk to us. And that's one thing we always talk about our players. Like if you're struggling with something, please come talk to us. We want to make sure we're approachable, but that also comes with respect and also just that calm demeanor. Like I don't really see the need of like yelling at an umpire or yelling at a kid. Um, there's instances where I've had to be stern, but that's always usually done like in a one-on-one setting. Or if it is something that needs to be addressed to the team, we address it outside of a game, maybe at like the next practice 24 hours later. So, but in the moment, we just really maintain like composure and try to stay even keeled throughout the game.
And that doesn't mean that your team lacks energy. Like
No.
hanging out with you guys in the dugout, the energy is it's loose, it's fun, but when it's time to get down to business, really your team does a really great job of carrying that energy through, watching you guys just at everyday season games, but then also at the state tournament, where the pressure is high. Can you talk about kind of the evolution of your season? What did this season look like for you guys?
A lot of people talked about our last year's season where we graduated, nine seniors. Coming into this year's season, we didn't have a single player that would be starting in the position they were in last year. So we had two returners, Brooke Janning, who was our right fielder, who became our starting pitcher, and then Claire Anderson, who was our third baseman, who bumped over to shortstop. And everybody else was new. So from an outsider's perspective, everyone's like, oh, I don't know how Blair is going to be this year. They're going to be down. You know, the offense is going to be, you know, not there. I don't know what they're going to be like defensively. But as a coaching staff, we're like, we're going to be good. Like, we knew we were going to be good. We knew what we had, like, behind those seniors last year. So coming in after our first week of softball, we're like, yeah, we have something special, and nurturing that special talent that we had all season was something really important to us. And then ended up winning districts, making it to state, which we were really, really proud of. One of our goals early on in the season was to make it to state. And then eventually towards the end, we're like, okay, we want to be at the top. So we fell to Beatrice, our second round. Hats off to them. They played a really great game and they hit Brooke really well. Came back, played GI Northwest, who we fell to in the championship game last year at UNO, and had a great game and beat them. And then after that, we played Hastings and tipped our hats to them because they were ready for us and they played well and then knocked us out of the tournament. So it was bittersweet. I mean, we had a great run. Super proud of the young athletes that we had on our team, and we just know that our future is really bright by how hard they worked all season. They weren't ready to give up.
Yeah. And that's evident. I think towards the end of the season, you get a lot of tension, a lot of pressure. I think it could be easy to get to the state tournament and then have this expectation. You know, you guys were in the semifinals last year.
Right.
What kind of conversations did you have with them towards the end of the season when they started to realize, oh my gosh, like you were right, coach, like you believed in us, but then they kind of had that epiphany themselves of, wait, we are good. We do
Yeah.
belong here.
Yeah. And our mantra, we try to pick a mantra every year, and this year's was day by day. And we truly did live by that. So we knew, like, sub districts, we got to just win through sub districts. Then it's district finals, then it's game one, which, I mean, you know, like, coaching at state, especially when you have a young team, that first game can dictate the rest of the tournament. And we were kind of nervous. We're like, okay, well, how are our girls going to react? You know, we've only had two that have actually played in state. But we were really loose and they just took it like any old game. And we were kind of shocked by that. We thought they'd be more nervous. But they played it just like any other tournament. So the pressure, I don't think they felt it nearly as much as they could have. But we also say, like, we put pressure on in practice. Like, that's your opportunity to, like, you can make mistakes. You can dive for that ball that maybe you don't normally dive for. Like, you can put some extra pressure there in practice time. And then when you come to games, like, the pressure should be off. You've already done the hard work. So we just have to make something happen.
I love that. And I want to key into that before we get into the mental side of it. I want to key into
Yeah.
the physical side. So give us a behind the scenes. How are you pushing them to failure? How are you communicating that it's, hey, if you're going to fail, we want you to fail at practice? What are those conversations like? And how would you tell another coach that's like, okay, obviously you've had a successful program, but how? How, coach? How are you doing this?
Right. I think it does come down to a lot of our cultural things. You know, with 3 teams and just under 40 girls, we start our practices the same way every day. So our girls, I think this is the fun little, like, inside scoop that our girls do. And it's been going on since I've been there. They all meet in the parking lot before practice and they all wait till everyone is there. And then they come down together as of one whole team. And I love it. I don't know when it started, but I mean, they do it for every single game, every practice. And then we all sit together as one big unit, because we are one unit. Like, reserve, JV, and varsity, we are all one team, shooting for one big massive goal, but also they also have like their team goals and individual goals. We talk as a team, we warm up as a team. I think that's really important, and it also gives some of our younger girls, maybe who are aspiring to be at that next level, they can see, okay, this is what it looks like to play catch when you're on the all-state team. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
We also do what's called, like, specialty groups. Softball season, you know, in the fall is so fast and furious, so we don't get to do it often, but we'll do a specialty group where we have, like, all our middle infielders will work together, whether they are freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, reserve, JV, varsity, they'll all go together. Our catchers will all go together. Our outfielders will go all together. Another opportunity for them to work with someone that might be at a different level than them. Also a mentorship type of feel too. So, like, some of our older girls might be able to mentor those younger girls. and showing them that it's okay to fail. And we talk about that too. We don't yell at them. We don't do like foul polls or anything like that. But we just tell them like, hey, this is your time. Like, go for that. Protect that line on third base. They miss one, we'll hit them another one. Just, oh, yep, one step over, and just do it until they feel successful. And then we usually break off into our 3 teams and do what's needed for that team. And we structure our practices if we had a game the night before and maybe we needed to work on cutoffs. And then we would practice cutoffs the very next day. We address maybe some of those weaknesses, which is why I like really starting our schedule really fast, furious, and usually pretty intense in some Class A tournaments. It exposes some of our weaknesses early, and then we're able to find those out at the beginning of the season rather than like easing into the season and then finding some of those things out in late September or October. But
Right.
yeah, those conversations with girls, I feel like they're pretty straightforward, and the girls will ask us and we'll put them in groups and say, like, this is what we're working on today. We keep missing those shoelace catches in the outfield or the in-betweeners. Let's work on those today. Like, it's okay if you miss. We don't care. Like, we want you to perfect that before we get to our games.
And I think the key that I want everybody to hear you saying is that communication, right? So you're breaking that down. You're calling out the good things. We're talking about what, hey, tomorrow, this could have been better after the game recap. And when you come at it, what I admire most about your coaching is that you really are matter of fact. There's no guilt there. There's no nuance. It's literally, hey, we need to work on this. So therefore, I got you. We're going to push you to failure at practice. And if you can't emulate this, I'm trying to think of the travel coaches. If you don't coach a high school, there are teams that are starting to pick up these organizational practices. And so if you're a 14U playing with an 18U, I think there's a temptation of, oh, well, we're not going to be as efficient or it's going to slow us down. And they've actually done studies on the Kohler effect, where when you combine multiple people together, the group increases their ability because they rise to the level versus working on these skills alone. And so what a beautiful example of no wonder you guys were successful, because even though you lost 9 seniors, if this is how you've been practicing, there's less of a gap, I guess, or a jump up. That jump up isn't as scary because for the last how many years, these underclassmen, even if they were a freshman or sophomore, you were very underclassmen heavy. They prepared and they felt that.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I have an opportunity to work with Club. My oldest is in 11U now. So I feel like the head coach for her team does the exact same thing. She's like, we're gonna prep them for high school already. And they're, some of them are 6th graders and it's just a few years away. And by, practicing with older teams or having scrimmages with older teams and having that piece where you see others providing you an example of where you need to be, I think is so important.
So good. Okay. We're going to shift gears into the mental side.
Sounds good.
This, again, I know I'm giving you so much praise, but give praise where praise is due. So even before I came on as a mental performance coach for your team, you were already doing Wellness Wednesdays, which you and I have talked about. A lot of other coaches, especially in the environment of high school softball, we only have 9 weeks, 10 weeks if you do postseason. It feels like the pressure of we only have so much time. But then when we zoom out and we look at it, we're asking our players to practice every day after school, Monday through Friday. And then we start throwing games in there. What is your approach for your practice plan for the week? And talk about Wellness Wednesdays.
It gets kind of crazy. And, I initially hadn't done Wellness Wednesdays. And I think because when we first started, I had felt like almost like a sense of guilt, like, oh, I don't want them to think I'm lazy. Like, we're not planning practices. Like, we should be out there. We should be hitting, taking grounders. But then after the first year of doing it, I really saw the benefits in our girls. One, I feel like school-wise, they were on top of it. We didn't have a single girl during season that was on like our dean's list, I guess you could call it, which was amazing because they did have an opportunity to do that. But going back to schedule, I guess Mondays, we'd be pregame usually, which pregames we try to keep light. We try to keep simple, just kind of fine tune anything that we might need to. Tuesdays, usually games. And then Wednesday, we did our Wellness Wednesdays. So our girls had a shirt that they wore every Wednesday. Somebody in the community usually donates it. Sometimes a parent will donate it, which is wonderful. And we put our mantra for the year. So we had our day by day on the front. And then we'd meet in one of our high school teachers' rooms, and they'd have their little envelope or their folder that had all their materials in it. And we do what's called Big Sister, Little Sister. So at the beginning of the year, our captains for our varsity assign Big Sister, Little Sister, which is just an opportunity to communicate with somebody in our program that maybe they don't get to communicate with a lot. And the little sister can ask questions to the big sister. And we give them 10 minutes at the beginning of Wellness Wednesday to sit and chat with their big sister. They go around the high school, they find a quiet spot. It could be about softball, it doesn't have to. It can be questions about class or maybe something they're struggling with at home. And then we come back and we went through your Warrior Wednesday, Fearless Warrior program, and it was amazing. And then sometimes we'd maybe go hit for 10 to 15 minutes, but normally we would just send them on their way, or go do our parents provided us meals on Wednesday night. So we'd go in the cafeteria and we'd eat a big meal together and then send them on their way. And the next day we'd usually play, and it was great because our girls felt rested. And I think that's one thing that I've grown to appreciate about doing those Wednesdays is listening to our athletes' bodies. They are just kids, and but aspiring for bigger things, and they need rest time and downtime. Going out to the field for an hour and a half after a long night and preparing for another long night the next day, I think giving them that time just to like recuperate and mentally like reset is important.
Yeah. Well, and I think going back to the fact that they're kids, I think we get so caught up in keeping up with the Joneses that we look at the teams in our conference, we look at Class A, Class B, Class C. Mm-hmm. And if we zoom out and we say, okay, how do I feel as an adult when I work a 9 to 5? We get to clock out at 5:00. They don't. They get done with school and then they have more practice. And then they're expected to go to hitting lessons and pitching lessons. And then when are they getting their homework in? And so I love that you're walking the walk, talking the talk. You're actually giving them that space where mentally you said at one point in our conversations that they know that they can look forward to that.
Yeah, they do. And we check into with our captains. We're like, hey, how do you feel this week? Like, do you guys need a short practice tonight? Are you okay to go long? Sometimes on Fridays, they're like, hey, I know we had we're going to be home late tonight from our Thursday game, but can we do a morning practice so we can go support our football players? And I'm like, absolutely. So we might not want to do it, but I mean, it's not about us coaches, it's about the kids, and they want to go support their friends. And we say, absolutely. So we'll just do a morning practice and then they can scoot on out after school. So we really try hard to listen to our athletes and what they need. And they don't take advantage of it either. They're really respectful. And I think that goes along with like having that mutual respect between the two of us. There's none of that imbalance of power.
Yeah. Well, and I think this could be said for parents too. If you're listening to this conversation and you're thinking, man, when is my daughter's rest day? Because it's tempting, Mondays is hitting, Tuesdays is pitching. Then we sign up for strength and conditioning. And Jen, sometimes I'll have one-on-one clients that I'm meeting with after my kids go to bed. Sometimes I'll have sessions with athletes at 9:00 at night, which if they're on the East Coast, it's 10:00. And I've even started to look at this of like, at what point are we sacrificing their rest physically, but also mentally of, I know that, a big talk right now is cortisol, like hormone balance it and rest and getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And the younger they are, the more sleep that they actually need. And so some of these girls that are staying up till midnight or 1 a.m. because they're doing homework, it's like, let's zoom back, parents, like let's zoom back. So let's kind of talk about, can you give me a quick picture? What impacted your decision to bring me in to work with your team? At what point were you like, hey, I think we need to like look at something different. Let's bring Amanda in. What was that conversation with your coaching staff like?
Well, I love getting your emails. So that's one thing. I'm like, and Coach Macklin's a huge fan too, my assistant coach. And every year we try to like have a theme. Like I read Zig Ziglar's Meet You at the Top for last year. And so we structured a lot of our activities around his book, even though it was more business geared, but we could translate it into like softball world too. And I think for me, I still love school. I'm going to school, I teach still. So I like learning new things. And I'm like, I also can see when like I've kind of probably reached my max in like my knowledge in a certain area. So I felt like we needed to outreach to somebody else to see who's an expert in that area and provide us with some more tools for our girls. And having such a young team this year, I just felt like this is the perfect time. We have a young team who's really going to grasp on to these ideas and really took hold of everything that you taught them and is using that in their softball career and hopefully other sports as well.
Absolutely. Do you remember what were your team dominant colors?
Oh, yeah. So we did do our colors assessment. And I gave that this summer. We were mostly blues and oranges, and we had golds. So we had one green, and that was my solo senior. So they really leaned into the color assessment, and I love it too because I'm a blue. All my assistants are golds, except for one who's an orange, which she brings like the life of the party too. So she's
Yep.
super fun. And I do love having my assistants be gold because they are so responsible. Like they get things done. I'm getting better at delegating things. There were 6 of us on staff this year. We had a couple volunteers, which was really nice. Um, but in my blue, like in me, like I am more a little bit emotional, and they can kind of keep me in line. Same with my one senior. So we talked a lot about like how to lead as a green, how to lead as a blue, and she'd have to have a tough conversation with the kid, and she'd go, "Can you like give me some blue ideas
Yeah.
so I can like be nice?"
Yes.
But then sometimes I feel like I need to channel her green too. So
But I think
yeah.
sometimes we get so lost in like, okay, we know that we are coaching individuals, but how do we coach our individuals? And what I love about the color personalities is even if you don't remember, does this kid respond to being pushed? Does this kid not respond? You can look at their colors and kind of get a quick overview. I used to do this all the time when I coached. I would save our color photos. I have all of the girls hold up their colors in a
Mhm.
picture, and I would save that picture and go back and reference it, find the kid I needed to talk to. And just a quick reminder
Oh,
for myself, like, oh my gosh, they're an orange. How do I speak to an orange? And it
yeah.
just like from girl to girl, culture wise, coaching wise, um, I have so many notes that like we could talk about, but the question I have for you is which skill out of the entire curriculum do you feel like your girls keyed into the most? Which one did they really latch on to?
I think we really liked like the move. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was towards the end where we identified like what we look like when we are like feeling down, and then what we look like when we're like ready to go, and like
Oh,
naming our people on. So we
yeah.
had our positive pickles and we had our pouty pickles,
Yes.
and which Penelope, our pickle, that was involved in our dugout all year long, which we loved. Um, but I think they really latched onto that because that was something that we could use right away. We could easily we came up with all different funny gestures, but we decided on something simple, and it was right before postseason, so I felt like they were really invested, and they actually took account of, okay, yeah, I can tell when we're like starting to like be in a lull, and then that energy would need to get like hyped up again, and it was just a quick, easy reminder. So I felt like I feel like they liked that one.
But I think what also gave you guys success is that it wasn't just something that happened on a Wednesday and stayed in their folders or stayed in the classroom. You did a phenomenal job of integrating it. Your girls were talking about it. You had Penelope in the dugout, which is it's a pickle. It's like a knitted
It's
pickle.
great.
So every game, there was the pickle, there's the
Yeah,
reminder. And so, what good is mental skills? What good is bringing in a mental performance coach if
right.
it just lives in that bubble of Wednesdays?
Yeah, I had one of my reserve parents, and this is probably one of my like big success to you. One of my reserve girls, it was about the buckets and like what bucket are your parents in? This is an earlier lesson, which I also really, really loved. And it brought up some hard conversations with some of the girls. But one of our girls said something, her mom said something to her in the game, and like she yelled to her mom, "Mom, get in the right bucket."
Yeah.
And mom laughed, and she's like, "Oh gosh," she's like, "Whatever you guys are doing is really working." And she was able to have that healthy conversation with her mom at home, and then able to like actually say something, and mom understood what she was talking about. And then mom's like, "Oh, yep, I need to make sure, I'm just in the praise bucket and not sitting there trying to give her direction." But I also thought that one was really valuable. But yeah, a really hard conversation for some of our girls. I walked around and talked to them. I'm like, "Okay, where do you feel like, certain people in your life, what buckets are they in? Are they in the right ones?" And a lot of them are like, ah.
Yeah.
So, and then just trying to figure out how to talk to their family members about, or coaches about being in the bucket that they really want them to be in. So I thought
Yeah.
that was a really good lesson.
And the feedback from your team going through this brand new curriculum of the conversation we had of how to make this curriculum better. Parent resources, I think, is the first thing on my list to make better, of how do we help bridge not only the coach player, gap and communication that you
Mhm.
guys have on Wednesdays, but then how do we take that beyond? I think
Right.
is going to be so valuable because, I mean, again, like you said, they could apply this to their other sports, their winter sports, their spring sports, their club teams.
Mhm.
Your parents are going to be there
Yeah. And
through
that
all
is
of
the
it.
thing, especially being a mom too. Like, I want to make sure I'm involved in my kids, like their journey, but I want to make sure I'm doing it in the right way. So, I mean, they look at me and I'm like, oh yeah, my mom coaches, but I also want them to look at me and be like, oh yeah, that's my mom. So
Right.
I try to wear my mom hat as much as possibly can, unless they ask me to like, be in the other bucket, then I will. But I want to make sure I support them the best I can. So I think parent resources are going to be really beneficial for anybody who's looking to improve the mental health of their athlete.
So good. What else would you say if a coach was wanting to implement curriculum? What, besides setting aside the time, right? We set aside a
Yeah.
time practice plan. Um, how else did you use it? One of the things that you mentioned to me was, you had their folders, you pre-printed the worksheets that I provided. What else would you recommend if a coach was, whether it's a travel coach, club coach, high school coach, what's your recommendation to make mental training a success?
I think you really, as a coach, you really have to believe it and like buy into it too. Like, you have to make sure you're watching the videos. You have to make sure like you're prepared and you understand what's going on, and then try to incorporate it throughout the week the best you can. Some of the lessons, you're talking a little bit more personal information, so you're not going to probably address it in front of a whole group. But I think you really personally as a coach have to buy in. And if you don't buy in, your kids aren't going to buy in. The same thing
Right.
if your kids don't think you're going to win, like if you don't think you're going to win, your kids are not going to think they can win. So anything you do, you have to do it all in or nothing.
Yeah, I love that. Well, one of the questions that we always ask as we're kind of shifting, unless there's anything else you want to add about, mental performance, or I guess maybe this would be a good question. It kind of ties in. One of the questions we always ask on the podcast is, you are a time traveler and you could go back and give your past self one message. What would that message be? And I kind of want two answers on this.
Okay.
One would be when you first started coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and the other can just be any point in your life.
Oh, I think for me, it would probably be when I first started coaching, to like be willing to like make mistakes. Like, it's okay. And like, I do this in my classroom too. Like, kids need to see that you make mistakes all the time. Like, I have no ego when it comes to like making a mistake. And like, if I make one, like, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have stole you. Like, that is on me. And I will say that to the girls. I'll be like, that one's on me. That is my fault. Or I should not have thrown you out at home. So I think like being willing to make mistakes early in my career would have been something I would have told myself. I do them now all the time. Like, I make them all the time. But when
But I
I was
think that's why you
younger,
get so much buy-in from your girls. I look at them and I know your program is rock solid because they're leaning in, they're listening to you, and we don't always see that. I didn't see that, and I made those same mistakes as a young coach. But no wonder your girls are bought in because they know you have their back and vice versa. And
right.
you're being vulnerable of like, if I'm asking you to fail, then I'm also going to admit when I fail.
Oh yeah, I do all the time. More
Yeah.
than them. So yeah, I would say for sure that would be one thing. And then like just the confidence piece, like knowing that like you're there for a reason, like be confident as a coach. Because I think sometimes like if you do lose, or there's been seasons where we haven't been, you know, we've been hanging around 500, and I wanted that really big winning season. And I think for me, it'd be like, oh, what did I do wrong? Like, how could I have made this better? But then realizing like, there were some really good things that happened in that season and I should be really proud of it. So like that confidence piece too. There's always room for growth, but I feel like being confident as a coach is something that it's taken a while to get there. And I still battle with that every day. But yeah, I would say future self and past self, like be confident.
Yeah. And you love what you do. And I can tell that you're
Yeah,
passionate about coaching. So
just never left.
I love it. Well, I am your biggest fan. I will keep cheering you on. I love working with your team. And I know you've got a busy day to get back to, but Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and some of your behind the scenes of your successful program. I know that so many coaches listen to this. And if you're hearing this and you're a coach and you have questions, Jen, what's the best place to follow you? Would it be Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, Twitter's probably our best place. That's where we're
Okay.
probably the most active. So, but yeah, Twitter's probably where you'll find us. So
Sounds great. We'll
yeah,
tag that in the show notes.
sounds great.
Well, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so nice to see you again. So, and we'll talk soon. Lots to talk about.
Of course.